Okay, we're in order here, give or take 7 o'clock. I'm John N7NWL. Everything that falls apart is my fault. Everything that works, everybody else gets credit for. I'm pretty good with that. For starters, let's just start off with introductions like we normally do. And I'm going to start with Virgil or start with Brian.
Brian, W7JET.
Norm, N9AV.
Walt, NJHE.
Fred, November Alpha 2 uniform.
Yes. Ned, A7A.
Rick, W1 Hotel Zulu.
Mickey K5ML and XL Elkie.
Ron, FA0KDS.
Mike, N7MW.
Bob, K7BHM.
I'm Virgil, K7VZ.
And if you could bring up the meeting slides, please, sir. Oops, my bad. Okay, Zoom attendance, Zoom guests, if you would go ahead and let us know who you are and your call sign, please.
NA7RH, Bob.
Richard, N7NT.
Mike, K7ING.
Jim, N7US in Illinois, where it's cooler.
Steve, K7SP.
Israel, K7NO.
Steve, you're up. Steve, K7 Sugar Papa.
I already introduced.
Okay, sorry about that. CADXA and me, not on Zoom. I'm just looking at the monitor.
Can't hear you, John. Whatever mic you used before worked okay.
He's fine here.
Well, we'll go with I'm 5'7" then.
Okay, you're fine here.
That's good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, meeting for tonight. This is who we are. Next slide, please, sir. This is the meeting agenda for tonight. We're going to meet and greet. Meeting starts now. We actually have 2 new members. They're rejoins. Robert and his wife, Helen, I believe, from Yuma. They recently rejoined. Do we have any guests? Zoom guests? No guests. Main program time is going to be Fred, NA2U, who we all know. And so that's the extent of the introduction. And his presentation is going to be on operating from Hawaii. So let's go to his slides. How do I minimize Zoom so I can get to his slides? Where's the minimize button? I need to see my desktop.
Windows D.
Windows Delta Echo. See, Virgil gets me involved in all this high-tech stuff. Thank you. Don't touch it. Now we're going to get to Fred's stuff. And the way this is going to work is Virgil is going to have Fred's slides on his laptop, which is going to project to Zoom. And Fred is going to look at my copy that has his notes on it over here. So I think that's how we're going to work this. If it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. And again, to move it, all you got to do is just like that. Okay, we're good. Talk to this mic. This goes to the Zoom recording. Talk loud so we can all hear you.
Okay. Early this year, Virgil and John contacted me to ask me if I'd be interested in doing a presentation on DXing from Hawaii. And I agreed. And as I was putting it together, I realized I had to also talk about contesting, because after all, contesting is the reason I'm doing it to start with. So there we go. Slide. Everybody knows Hawaii. I go to Kilo Hotel 6 Zulu Mike, Max, Big Island of Hawaii, lower right. Max is about 45 minutes from Hilo. It's about 2,500 miles from Hawaii to California. And if you look at the big map, you'll see that there's absolutely not a damn thing between the two. Slide. Here's the azimuth map and centered on Hawaii. And again, it's pretty bare around the center circle. Note the polar path to Europe. This is particularly a pain in the butt, particularly with the ugliness of polar flutter on 20 meters. Just as a point of interest, Max says the antipode from his place would be Botswana. He's worked South Africa on 160, but he's not yet worked Botswana on 160. Slide. Max's QTH is a little bit northeast of Volcano, which is in the upper left quadrant right there. This was a map from a few years ago, 2000, showing some of the lava flows from Kilauea. Fortunately, these have all been down below Max. The fissures are below. The lava is not coming out of the caldera. Otherwise, could have been a bit of a problem for him. Actually, seeing flowing lava has always been something on my bucket list, and it's not quite worked out. When I was just there in February and March, we had inches of rain every day. The one day near the end of my stay, it kind of got clear, and we thought, well, let's go up to the caldera and take a look. Well, we started to go up there and it was all clouded in. My wife Liz and I took a helicopter ride on one trip, and we flew over Kilauea, and we could see a couple of hot spots, but nothing really flowing. So the timing's just always been wrong. I just missed a big one a couple of months ago again. Timing's everything. Slide. This is Max, Kilo Hotel 6 Zulu Mike. Max and his wife Kathy are excellent hosts. Give you a bit of background on Max before I go on. Was first licensed as I1 Mike Yankee Pop in 1963. 2 years later, he changed his call to I0 Mike Yankee Papa. Moved to California from Europe, and in 1977 was licensed as N6BAA. Moved to Hawaii in 2001 and picked up Kilo Hotel 6 Zulu Mike, which is still his call. Max recalls that it was Lou K1YR visiting him for the first time in 2006 for WPXCW that turned Max on to contesting. Prior to that, Max was really happy that we had the work bands, because when contests would come on, he'd have someplace to go to operate. Lou probably visited Max 3 times at his previous QTH. He didn't have a 10-meter antenna, so Lou sent him a 3-element Yagi that he had around. Max mounted the Yagi on a 10-foot pole attached to a 20-foot extension ladder and put a rotator on the top. That antenna is still the capacitance hat at the top of Max's 160-meter antenna. Shortly after that, K3 Tango Mike, Roger did a few contests for Max's old QTH, and then the race was on to build a real contest station. Built its first 160-meter antenna, an inverted L supported by an 80 feet of irrigation pipe inside a wooden A-frame. When he moved to his present property, had the space to expand the antenna farm Well, pictures of the antennas here in a second. Many hams have visited Max's for contesting, including N6EE, N6TJ, N6AA, N5ZO, K1YR, and our members KF7 Echo, Kilo Yankee 7 Mike, November Yankee 7 November, et moi. N6TJ and I, over the past years that I've been doing this, kind of share the major contests. Jim Niger does the CQ Worldwide contest and I do the ARRLs. And it's worked out pretty much like that since I started in 2014. I met Max through Lou. Liz and I visited Max and Kathy in July of 2013, ahead of what would be my first operation from there, the CQ Worldwide CW contest in November. Hang on one second. Yep. Oh, wheel. Thank you. I had no idea what this was going to be like. It's going to be only my second time operating as DX. I first did the IARU contest in 2002 from Dominica with my buddy K5KG. But since I did that worldwide contest starting in 2014, I've done all of the ARRL phone contests since then, and same starting in 2015 for CW. Slide. Now I have to scroll up. Google Earth, lots of trees and Max. Slide. Getting a little bit closer here, you can see start to see the towers. Slide. There's a ground view of the towers. Max is at about 3,500 feet above sea level. So on the east side of the island, a great shot to the States. Kilauea is on the other side. And to be frank, you know, work in Japan, I don't know what the mountain's doing when I'm doing it, but I get through. It's just a great path. Unfortunately, the QTH is really quiet, which is great for Max and his 160 meter operation. Please stand by. I'm waiting for my slide guy. There's a picture of the operating position without the uncomfortable chair. Max has two chairs in the shack for operating. Neither one of them are comfortable for this contest, but station setup for SO2R. All of my operations have been single radio. I got more than I can handle with one, and probably only using 5 or 6 functions with that to start, to begin with. Slide. There's a list of the current equipment. It's changed a little bit since I started. FTDX 5000 is a pretty nice rig. Antennas are nice. Really good setup. And for ARRL contests, point the antennas that are pointable, and you don't have to change the antenna all weekend, which I like a lot. The less I have to do, the better. Slide. This was the results from my first CQ Worldwide CW. My best rate was on 10 meters. One more slide. Sorry about that. That's a major player, by the way, but I digress. My best rate was 173 an hour, which I think at the time was probably my best hour on CW ever. Sleep is very important to me. I usually operate in the 48 hours. Most of the contests I've done from there are probably 38 hours on. I'm down now to about 34. It's more of a challenge in worldwide because some band is open somewhere all the time. So I needed to decide when to sleep. And I don't, it's long enough ago now, I don't remember, but I'm sure I worked with Max and we figured out when to do it. And it turned out it was going to be from about 2 o'clock local time in the morning until 6 or 6:30. That seemed to work out okay. I'll talk about sleep a little more later. Not related to the contest, but my first trip here, my first time working long path on 10 meters. I didn't even know you could do that on 10 meters. In an hour and 55 minutes, I ran 250 Europeans on 10 meter CW. And haven't done it since, so that's not one I'm forgetting. Slide. In 2015, I was going to go back for both ARRL contests, and my wife Liz realized that maybe she needed a piece of this Hawaii thing. So before the pandemic, we got into a kind of a routine where I'd fly over a couple of days before the CW contest, do the CW contest, and Liz would fly over to Kona. Max would take me to Hilo. I'd rent a car and drive around to Kona, and we'd spend 4 or 5 nights resorting. And this is an action shot of us in the ocean. In fact, this might be the only time in all these years I've been in the ocean, and it's with my water shoes. I don't like the sand. When we were kids, we had a 16-foot plywood boat, 35 horsepower motor. We would go to the Mississippi River, just north of St. Louis, every Saturday and Sunday from what seems like late March until early November. And we would play in the sand. No more sand for this guy. I got sunburn in 2016. We were, this is when Liz and I are together. We were out, we're in the chaise lounges facing the beach. Got the canopy over. I have not got sunscreen on my legs. I have 2 of these thick beach towels that are folded up, and I have them laying on my legs. We got up, I took the towels off, Lobster City. But that one wasn't too bad. In 2019, I had pictures, but didn't dare show them. We went out, we had friends come over and meet Liz and me there. We went out one morning, and again, I didn't have sunscreen on my legs. 2 days later, I think, we went to Honolulu, and by the time we got to Honolulu, I was starting to blister. In 1 or 2 more days, the fronts of both legs, from my knees to my toes, blisters. I don't go out without sunscreen anymore. It was, and Max was a prince, a master of the ACE bandage. I had to go to urgent care 3 times and got this cream and these splints and ACE bandages and stuff. And twice a day, he would wrap both of my legs. Trying to contest with that for the phone contest was not a lot of fun. Slide. Just a random sunset picture from Kona. Slide. Can we read that? Yeah, we can. These are all of my ARRL results on the left. My 2 worldwide CWs, my 2 worldwide phones, an IARU and miscellaneous CWTs on Wednesdays. As you can see, I have a total ARRL of 77,571. And the non-ARRL 14,448. My favorite one, of course, is 2014. My first phone contest there. I used to think I didn't like phone contesting. After this, I realized that it wasn't phone contesting that I didn't like. It was phone contesting from home that I didn't like. This was a personal high for me, just all time. My best 60-minute rate was 289 on 15. It was my first time over 1,000 Qs on 3 bands. First time over 2,000 Qs on any band. My first time more than 5 million score. I ended up making 5,000 Qs again in 2016. And I just have to say that more Qs are better than less Qs. I mentioned scheduling sleep during the worldwide. My pattern now for sleep is pretty much set, and it's still 2 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the morning. I try to get back in the chair by 6:30. One year, I stayed up an extra hour. I stayed up until 3 o'clock local to try to work the Midwest on 160. Slept another hour. Took me 45 minutes to find a run frequency on 15 meters. So now I go back to the radio at 6:30. That's not a lot of fun. Staying up until 2 o'clock ends up being 6 o'clock, I think, on the East Coast. Before those guys are getting up and before they turn their antennas to Europe, I used to Jersey, you get up and you point west and see if there are any multipliers out there. And that seems to work well for me. It doesn't always work, but sometimes just around their sunrise, start getting an opening. Again, I'll just say that not having to turn the antenna is a pretty big deal. It's a total of 92,019 Qs. Almost all of these are from running. I bet of all of these contests, I probably haven't done search and pounce for 6 hours. Usually you could call CQ and people just keep calling. Although one year, I remember PJ2T called me, and of course we can't work during the contest, and they said, oh, nothing happened in there either. Because, we were just calling and calling and calling, and nobody would respond. In 2020, Lee, KY7M, joined me for a multi-single phone operation in the DX phone contest. We had a great time. We didn't know that when we left, COVID was going to shut everything down. We barely made this deal. So, because I'm always thinking about contesting, I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do now? I have been operating with Ned and Lee and my KC7V on our remote station in Southeast Arizona, NA2U in Safford. So I come up with the big idea. Let me see if Max will buy into setting a station up to remote. Now, Max is 5 years older than me. And I'm thinking, he may or may not go for this. Well, old dog, new trick. Max was on board. So for a couple of months, we worked to get his station set up for remote, along with some help from Jerry, W1 Victor Echo. And we got it to work. For me, COVID was an okay thing because N6TJ, first of all, I think then Hawaii wasn't letting people fly in. So Jim wasn't going to be able to do either one of the CQ worldwide. So I got to do both of them that year. And for me, this is just in the candy store stuff. Gave me to operate both of those contests remotely from home. And in 2021 and 2022, I did both ARRL contests remotely. Slide. Now, this one's a little hard. You can read it, I guess. The result of that, this is my line score from 2022 ARRL contest. At Dayton last year, N50T Mark, who I know from PJ2T, he is the guy who writes up the QST articles for the ARRL DX contest. Came up to me at a meeting and said, told me that the final scores were in and I'd won the contest. And I said, "Oh, shut the front door." And he said, "No, really, you actually won." I thought for sure he was pulling my leg. This was a remote operation. I was on 34 hours slide. And this is what the plaque looks like as my first single op. It was assisted, but that's okay. My first single op, first place in one of the ARRL and any of the 4 big DX contests. Slide. So this is my a breakdown of all of my DX contacts from Hawaii. 2013 is when I started it. And this goes through March of this year, so 16,440 Qs. Most of them CW, of course. Maybe not, of course, but of course. Not much work. Actually, more work than I thought. Not any 30 meters. This was the first year I operated 6 meters from maxes. Only become interested in 6 meters the past couple of years, and again, it's because of our remote station where we have a real nice antenna and we're running power. And so I asked Max about it. He said, "Yeah, the stepper works on 6." So I decided to do 6. I made 391 contacts slide. It's always when I'm DXing or contesting, it's always fun working guys I know. Every once in a while, particularly in ARRL, someone will call one of my old friends from New Jersey, maybe somebody I haven't seen probably 15, 20 years, I'll call. And even in the midst of running stations, I'll chat a little bit because it's just fantastic to hear these guys we used to hang out with. So on February 22nd, 6 meters, all of a sudden, it's like I'm on the phone home. All of these guys in just, what is that, 12 minutes. It was really cool. What I would do is I'd bring up DX maps and I'd show Hawaii. There were 2 or 3 other Hawaiian stations on about the same time. Well, I'd watch for them to show up, see where the path was, point the antenna and have some fun. And it finally got to, I'm certainly no expert on 6 meters, but it finally got to where I would spot some stations, New Zealand or Australia, and there was no path shown. I'd just point the antenna and start. And sometimes I could get things started. But this right here was a really special time for me. Slide. That's the time it was open to South America from here. Yes. Oh yeah, and Australia, New Zealand, and these are the stations that I worked on the individual days. Got some nice ones in there. JA, I had on the 25th of February, I ran 95 JAs on 6 meters. I mean, it just kept coming. It was like I'm working 40 meters from here. Yeah, this was fun. All of these, of course, are new. The good thing about DXing from a DX location is you get to start all over. You're starting with no countries confirmed, no states, no nothing. So I worked 32 different countries, 29 have been confirmed. The Fred Fish have got 35 and the VUCC on 6 meters, 140 grid squares. It's a start. I'm going nowhere on 6 meters, but I would take advantage of another opening like that if it comes along. The thing about it is I don't know if there's ever been an opening like this when I've been in Hawaii, because I've never looked at the band. So now at least I know when I'm there in February and March, check out the band. Slide. So the total of all these Hawaiian queues, 110,419. Max told me early on that given the amount of time I was there, that I spent more time in the chair on the radio than anybody who had ever visited him. This past trip, I was there for 19 days. So I had time to play on 6 meters. Actually, your butt just gets tired from sitting there from, 6:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock. But it's still a lot of fun. Slide. One of the cool things I mentioned, working friends. Another one of the cool things about operating DX there, at least for me, is that you'll get emails from guys who need Hawaii for an award. Could be worked all states, could be triple play. They could need the zone. I love to try to help these people. First one I had was 2015, Pierre Fox 8 Delta Hotel Echo needed zone 31 for 5-band worked all zones on 80 meters. Well, Pierre had sent me an email on February the 19th, but I didn't see his email until March the 2nd. This is okay, but between the contests, we have to pray for dry weather because Max has to retune the 80-meter antenna from CW to phone. So by the time I got back to Pierre, we're all tuned up for phone. So I suggested that we try CW, but we try it in the phone band. So the first night, let's see, I went down there and at 04:30, which is 6:30 Hawaiian time, pretty much gray line sunset. I could copy him, he couldn't copy me. So we decided that we'd try the next night, which by the way, was the only other night that I was going to have because the contest would be the next night. Slide. We waited for his sunrise the next night, made our sked for 0600 and made the queue at 0613. So that's pretty cool. Had another example of this in 2019, received an email from Nancy, November 1 Gulf Fox Victor in Virginia, asking if we could make a brief, schedule for a brief CW queue. She just begun working on her CW Worked All States Award. We made the queue on 20 meter CW. From our exchange of emails since then, I am guessing that Nancy is what we would call middle age. I don't know much about her personal life. I do know she's been married for over 20 years. So I'm putting her probably late 40s, could be even older than that. She got her license without having to know the code. On her own, she learned the code. She loves everything CW. I mean, it just thrills me to no end. She's into the history of it. She wants to know all of this stuff about it, and she loves working it. After listening to so many complaints over the years of guys that want to get a license, but they got to learn the code. Oh, I don't like the code, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is very refreshing for me. We had another sked this March. She was going to be visiting her parents in Alabama. So we set up another sked. She was running a KX3 with 15 watts to a 75-foot wire 15 feet above the ground. She's improving on her CW. And it's something totally unrelated to this. In 2016, I worked India Zero Tango Whiskey Alpha, Max's friend Fredo, on 20 CW at 822 local in Hawaii. Max's shack is in the garage, adjacent to the garage, which is outside the house. While I'm working Fredo, he's talking to Fredo on Skype in the house. Still one of my favorites. Slide. This year, I got an email from John G4IRN, who I've known for a few years. He's one of the former VU dudes traveling to Africa with Lee and Ned. John needed zone 31 on 160 for 5-band worked all zones. We started trying to do this right after the CW contests. We were going to use FT8. We knew Aurora was going to be an obstacle. Now, again, being your non-technical friend, I knew Aurora affected the higher frequencies. I had no idea Aurora would affect 160. Well, I learned. You can see here that the Aurora completely blocked the path from Hawaii to Europe. On Wednesday, the 22nd, I copied John twice, or printed him twice. He never printed me. Slide. Printed him on February the 22nd at -12 at 0900 UTC. On the 26th, I printed him at -19. That was the last time. This was about 20 minutes before his sunrise. I wouldn't print him again. We're pretty sure we were done in by the Aurora. I could watch a signal moving west on PSK Reporter and saw him get as far as Arizona and just never got to Hawaii. And each night we try starting from an hour and a half before his sunrise until an hour and a half after his sunrise. I think we did this for 8 nights. Again, I had a lot of extra time, so would have dinner, go out, sit at the shack. And we're both working other guys on 160 at the same time, but we're looking for each other and just never panned out. Slide. Time to talk papayas. I fell in love with the Big Island papayas on my very first visit to Max's. I'm a big fresh fruit guy. These, I can't say it strongly enough. They are delicious. They're sweet. Poke them with the fork, squeeze the fresh lime juice on them. I have at least half a papaya for breakfast every morning, sometimes a whole papaya. And can buy Big Island papayas here, take them home, give them time to ripe. Haven't found one to work yet. This is always tops on my list when I go there. Max, by the way, is a great cook. He's Italian. He's from Rome, and cooks a couple of my favorite dishes, and we just have a great time. You can't beat food in contesting or DXing. No, sadly, no. Shipping would have been exorbitant. Overall, I'd say it's been a pretty good trip. Lou K1YR introducing me to Max, of course, was the key to the whole thing. Not only do I owe Lou for that, I owe him because he helped save me when I was having my heart attack, but that's a different story. After the 2000 CW test and the 2014 ARRL phone test, Lee KY7M got me invited to PJ2T for CQ Worldwide CW. I guess I had done well enough where they thought I could play with the big guys. Lots more opportunities there. And again, I go down there and you start working countries, they're all new. Start all over. It didn't print out my, award status, for that. But, DXCC on at least a couple of bands, mixed and, CW. But my major push has been in Hawaii. Max is, like he says, like my Italian brother from another mother. We have a great relationship. His station's nice. He always knows how things work. He's very good technically, and because, as Ned can attest, I can fat finger stuff sometimes and not know what the hell I've done. Max can come out and save the day. My trip for ARRL next year is not finalized in that I don't know if I'll operate remote or in person. If I operate there, I need to plan on filling in a couple of DXCC bands. I'm closest on 20 meters where I need 6 more countries, and on 15 where I need 4 more. And that's all if I can stay off 6. Slide. Earlier this year, I worked VU7 whiskey. I've needed Lakshadweep Island forever. I've never heard him. And that was the last station I needed for top of the honor roll. And of course, our club, this is kind of what we're about. And I'm just thrilled that I was able to get it. And my wife, once again, is threatening to put the gear on Craigslist. So that's what I've got. I hope you found it interesting. Any questions? Sure. Yes.
I believe, well, first of all, I've worked you several times in several different DX contests, sideband, CW. You're always loud. You know, I've got like a peanut whistle station, but that's okay because he can hear me. But at some sideband DX contest, which I do not remember which one it was, pileups from this side were fairly substantial. And I could hear you working some stations, but it was tough for folks to get through. And I don't remember whether you related this story to me or what, but I seem to recall Gary N7IR. Fred's calling for folks and he's picking up pieces of call signs and this, that, and the other side and the other thing. And all of a sudden you hear, dude, Gary, N7IR, K7, you know, K7M, 59, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Gary comes back, didn't miss a beat, you know, K7M or whatever it was, N7IR, your 593 or whatever. But the word dude with Gary's voice and the way he said it, I mean, it just shot out, it stuck out. It beat, you know, like any call sign, period. Yeah.
Max is sitting next to me and he's got the headphones on. And we are laughing. I have tears just running down my cheek that Gary's busted the pile up yelling, dude. He did it in another contest too, and it just kills me. It cuts right through. And a lot of it's got to do with the pitch of his voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good operating tactic to use or not, but I would certainly do it if I could pull it off. But anyway, so yeah, Fred's always got a good signal from over there, and I've worked him a couple of times, and you pull me out and put up with my CW, and which I appreciate. And so anyway,
It's a lot of fun, and I will say that I'm already down for CQ Worldwide Phone in October. Jim has announced that he's going to work at a multi-multi on Oahu. So that opens up Max's station, and they'll be back at PJ2T in November. But I'll be doing Worldwide Phone remotely. Get Jerry on the phone again and get me set up. Okay.
so anyway, well, thank you, Fred. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the cues and all the work you've done. That's a lot of it. And at this moment in time, I believe it's break time. So according to my phone, because I lost my watch. Oh no, Brian, W7JET. Oops, we missed the, yeah, go back to the Mai Tais.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
You forgot, you gotta, man, you gotta do the Mai Tai thing.
My wife actually got me this this T-shirt on Zazzle, and I love it. It's one I always wear for CW contest. In addition to the papayas, when we are in Honolulu, we make it a point to go to the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, which is right on the beach in Waikiki, and we enjoy the best Mai Tais on the planet. Honest to God, they're really, really good. And if we have enough time, we have two. It really is cool. We were just there in January. We took a cruise from San Diego out around the Hawaiian Islands back to San Diego with two other couples. And we kept carrying on about these Mai Tais. So we're in Honolulu and we make our way down there, and they guaranteed that we had not disappointed them and had not overhyped them, because they're just the best. That then would be the end. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fred. I appreciate that. Appreciate everything you've done. Brian, you want to say a few words about the W1AW thing?
So W1AW Portable 7's coming up in the end of August 30th through the 6th. So it'll be 5 p.m. August 30th through the previous day, and then through the 6th at 5 p.m. It's a Tuesday to Tuesday. If you're interested in operating, just get in touch with me, W7JET@ARRL.net. Worked out pretty well the last time. We had, I think, 8,500 queues. I was sick that entire week, so I actually only operated for about 2 hours and managed. That was actually only an hour, I think. I managed a little over 200 contacts in about an hour or so. But we had a lot of operators. Ingrid was on, and she was a blowtorch. I think she did like 6,000 of those contacts by herself. I got to say, so a quick little story. And it's my wife, W7EV. She's a member. She doesn't really come to the meetings, but she decided this year she wanted to do the 13 colonies. And I have never experienced the YL20 dB advantage until I was doing this. So we're doing phone, and the GB13 COL, for those who've never worked it, is usually impossible to get to find. And when they're on, you can barely hear them. Huge pile up. The East Coast wall is up. My wife keys down, makes her first call, very first call. The YL ending Echo Victor Echo again. So it is a real thing. And she's actually going to operate W1 and W7 this year too. So if anybody's interested, just let me know. And we'll plug you in.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It's about 10 minutes till 8. Let's do a break for about 20 minutes. Come back at 8:10 or so. Bottled water's in the back. Something's in the cooler. Cookies are in the cookie jar. And have at it.